Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
A historic showdown between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump is just an hour away. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The two presumptive major party nominees are meeting for their first debate this election cycle, and KPBS will carry it live. Reporter Julia Benbrook has the details from Atlanta, where the candidates will take the stage.
This will be the first time either President Joe Biden or former President Donald Trump has been on a debate stage since their two clashes back in 2020, when Trump's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic dominated the political landscape. Now there's a new set of issues that are driving this race for the White House, and both of these candidates have records to defend.
Mr. President, can you let him finish, sir?
During the first presidential debate of 2020,
the question is,
Donald Trump interrupted Joe Biden more than 100 times.
Everybody remembers the disastrous first debate where he sort of lost the campaign that night. But the second debate, he was good. He was measured. He had command of the facts.
When it comes to tonight's debate, sources familiar with the conversation say Trump's advisors and allies have tried to steer him away from airing his grievances and have instead encouraged him to focus in on kitchen table issues like the economy, crime, and inflation. All areas where Biden will have to defend his record. But Trump has also added to his record since these two last met on the debate stage.
Roe v. Wade comes down. January 6th happens. You have 88 felony indictments. You've got the criminal felony charges.
Biden's team is looking to paint Trump as unhinged and unfit to return to the Oval Office. They're also hoping the president can highlight the domestic issues that have become centerpieces of his campaign.
There's a huge amount of opportunity for Joe Biden on debate night to really drive at Trump's vulnerabilities on abortion, on democracy.
The latest CNN poll of polls shows no clear leader right now. Nationwide, the current average stands at 47% supporting Biden and 49% supporting Trump. The debate is taking place inside CNN studios. There will be no studio audience. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions tonight and 1 minute for responses and rebuttals. At the moderator's discretion, there could be an additional minute added for follow-ups or clarifications. Reporting in Atlanta, I'm Julia Benbrook.
Election season can be a stressful time, especially in particularly polarizing ones like the current cycle. Coming up, we take a look at ways to reduce election anxiety.
It's been a hot one out there. Our excessive heat warnings that have been in effect for the desert locations will be ending this evening at 8 p.m. We're going to get a little bit of relief during the overnight hours, but we're right back into the heat over the next few days. So how low do we go tonight? We drop down to 79 at Borrego Springs, up into Mount Laguna, 64. That looks pretty good. Around 62 for your late night low in El Cajon, and we'll be in the low to mid 60s near the coast. We're going to look ahead to the weekend, which will involve some more heat for the inland.
Education officials in San Diego and Mexico are working together to support our region's binational students. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas has more on the challenges they face.
When American-born students enroll in Mexican schools, they face several challenges. San Diego Unified School District Deputy Superintendent Fabiola Bagula says one of the biggest is language.
One of the things that I've learned now in speaking to the Deputy Secretary of Baja California is that when our students, for some reason, have to move back to Mexico, they actually don't speak Spanish. According to the data that I've been receiving, is that there's tens of thousands of students that are American-born citizens that go back to Mexico and actually don't attend school because of the language differences.
Lots of California students speak multiple languages, but few are in language immersion programs, according to Edgar Lampkin, the CEO of the California Association of Bilingual Education.
40% of our students are English learners in California. 35% of our K-12 students are reclassified English learners. That's about 75% of our student population that speaks a language other than English.
Dulce Maria Jauregui is the Deputy Secretary of Education for Baja California. She says school systems on both sides of the border could work together to meet the language needs of newly arrived students.
La comunicación que hay con las escuelas, ¿no? Sobre todo donde estos alumnos van llegando, pues es primordial para poderles dar este apoyo.
The California Department of Education aims to have 1,600 dual language immersion programs in the state by 2030. Lampkin says that's about 600 more than there are now. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
A California bill protecting the rights of LGBTQ+ students is on its way to the governor. It's called the Safety Act, and it was authored by local assembly member Chris Ward. It prohibits school districts from creating or enforcing any policies that require employees to disclose a student's sexual orientation or gender identity without the student's permission. This would void recent policies in places like Temecula that required school staff to out students to their parents. New data from the county shows thousands of children and families in our community live roof to roof without a place to call their own. The Office of Education says about 21,000 kids live in what's called sheltered homelessness, meaning they spend the night in shelters or temporary housing at some point in the school year. Some, like Vanessa Brunetta, enter the foster care system. She says the monthly stipends that she received after aging out of foster care stopped as she pursued her degree at UCLA.
When that ended and then my financial aid ended as well, it was hard for me to manage on my own. But I would sleep in my car when I wasn't in school, and then when I was in school, I would stay with friends up in Los Angeles or again do remote classes from home or from my car or wherever I was.
The National Foster Youth Institute says 1 in 5 former foster care youth experience homelessness again as adults. An empty lot in Encinitas is at the heart of a contentious debate over affordable housing. Most speakers at last night's City Council meeting opposed building housing on the site, but KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne says the council voted to continue exploring it as an option, sort of.
To some, it's known as L7, the empty city-owned lot off of Quail Gardens Drive in Encinitas. It has a history of debate over what the city should use the space for.
And we began to advocate for 100% affordable community on L7 about 6 years ago.
Bob Kent and Lois Sunridge are with Keys for Home, a group advocating for more affordable housing in the city of Encinitas.
The people who work in Encinitas and keep the wheels running in Encinitas and make Encinitas what it is, that serve Encinitas, then have to go home outside of Encinitas are the people we want here.
Encinitas is already in compliance with the state for affordable housing, but they say additional housing will put the city ahead of the housing crisis. The proposed development could have 30 to 45 units and cost up to $17 million. The estimated city subsidy is up to $6 million.
We don't deny the need for affordable housing. We just think this is a really bad location and an inefficient use of public funds.
Dick Stern is a part of a group of nearby residents who think the lot would better serve as a park. They say Quail Gardens Drive already has several housing developments in the works, and another isn't needed.
There's a need for park space for all these residents that are going to be living here along Quail Gardens Drive, that are going to be in developments that are going to come in here in the next 4 to 6 years. And this is a narrow 2-lane road that does not support the level of development that they're talking about.
People representing both sides of the issue were heard in Wednesday's city council meeting before a vote on whether the city should study the site for affordable housing. Speakers opposing the project outnumbered those in favor, and the motion failed. But Encinitas Mayor Tony Kranz said affordable housing isn't off the table for the parcel.
I think we would all benefit, community included, by having a conversation and taking a deep dive into these new laws and see if there's a way to achieve 45 plus affordable units in some other way than developing this site. That doesn't necessarily mean this site is going to go away as a potential housing site.
Kranz added that by starting a study of 30 to 45 units on L7, It could protect the site from a higher density development later on. A similar motion was passed and includes community education on affordable housing laws and discussion groups over the site's future development. A new task force will also be formed and will explore other locations for affordable housing. The task force will have 6 months before returning to council with their findings. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
With several high-profile decisions still pending this term, the Supreme Court says it needs extra time to finish its workload. The court says it will issue opinions tomorrow and Monday. There is a chance it may need another day after that. The last time the court went into the first week of July was back in 2020 after the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. The court did hand out rulings today. The court formally dismissed an appeal over Idaho's abortion ban, allowing emergency abortions. Another ruling limits the power of the Securities and Exchange Commission to enforce security fraud violations. The court rejected a settlement involving Purdue Pharma that would have sent billions of dollars to victims of the nation's opioid crisis. And an effort by the Biden administration to reduce air pollution across state lines was put on hold. When you're released from the hospital, it often means more recovery time at home. But what about people who have no permanent housing? Where can they recuperate? KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco says that's the problem Scripps Health hospitals are facing as the number of homeless patients they treat has nearly doubled in 5 years.
Unfortunately, I got divorced, I got depressed, and I didn't want to stay in Phoenix anymore, so I flipped a coin and then landed in San Diego.
When Frank Serbay moved to San Diego in 2022, he had nowhere to stay.
I came off that Greyhound bus and saw all that tents. I'm like, what did I get myself into? I was thinking about, okay, I got $100 left in my pocket. I'm going to go back to Phoenix. But I gave it a chance.
Serbay, now 59, says he was struggling with alcoholism.
So I lost my job, my house, my car, my dog. I lost everything.
Serbay found shelter at Father Joe's Villages in downtown San Diego. It was at their health center he had a pain in his leg checked for the first time and discovered he had a tumor.
I had major surgery done on my leg, which they took a tumor out the size of a golf ball.
After surgery, he needed additional care. Melody Thomas directs patient care and case management at Scripps Mercy Hospital. She works to find unhoused patients recuperative care. She says without a place to heal properly, those requiring ongoing attention may find themselves back in the ER within days.
If you need to recuperate from the hospital and you are homeless or unsheltered, that is an option. Recuperative care is usually a higher medical need than what they could manage at a shelter bed.
Homeless individuals often seek emergency care for immediate needs, but are released when they are medically cleared, even if they require ongoing care. Thomas says last year, Scripps' 5 San Diego hospitals treated 22,227 homeless patients. This year, they're on track to double that number. State law requires hospitals to track and create discharge plans for homeless patients, connecting them to shelter options. Thomas says the challenge is the shortage of beds and difficulty accessing recuperative care programs.
That process does vary based on managed Medi-Cal. So how and when we can get authorization for that, specific bed, then determining the timeliness of getting the patient into the recuperative care bed is where you may have heard. That's, I think, where the opportunity is.
Some patients who need recuperative care may end up back on the street because there can be a lag between when a patient is released from the hospital and insurance approves it. Thomas says it's challenging to know how many people need recuperative care but don't get it. Some patients give up during the waiting process. Others need it but refuse it. After his surgery, Serbay recovered in the recuperative care program at Father Joe's Villages. The program has 28 beds, and patients are supported by on-site nurses. Jesse Casement connects clients to social services at Father Joe's Villages.
It's very different to heal in a tent or in a canyon or in the backseat of a car. And so we're able to offer a space like this that not only helps them with their physical healing, but with their mental health and just the relief from knowing that they're safe and can heal the way that they need to.
Survey recuperated in a clean and safe room shared with just one other person.
So I got a peace of mind every night since I've been here. I watch my TV on my tablet, and it's just very peaceful.
Survey can walk now and uses a cane only for stability after completing the 90-day program.
We have a very short time that we can work with them in recuperative care, and our case managers work very hard to help people exit to their next safe destination.
They also help with their finances and housing goals. Survey's waiting to hear whether he's been granted housing in a converted hotel room.
It's just a room, but it's me by myself, and I don't need nothing more than that.
Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
The Biden administration is pushing to make housing more affordable. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen announced a plan earlier this week to help lower costs. But as Jen Sullivan explains, housing affordability is an ongoing crisis that is impacted by a variety of economic issues right now.
For the 11th month in a row, housing prices jumped year over year across the country, according to the National Association of Realtors. The median existing home sales price last month jumped 5.8% to $419,300, the highest price ever recorded.
There's not enough inventory, so the buyers are left with so few choices.
The housing affordability crisis is an issue impacting the entire U.S.
We face a very significant housing supply shortfall that has been building for a long time, and this supply crunch has led to an affordability crisis.
Speaking in Minneapolis this week, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen unveiled the Biden administration's plan to create a $100 million fund to help finance affordable housing projects over the next 3 years. But it's not just the lack of inventory that's driving up prices. While inflation overall has cooled, shelter costs, which measure things like rent and mortgage costs, continue to rise, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. As of June 20th, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate averaged 6.87%, according to Freddie Mac. In a recent analysis of data from Zillow and StreetEasy, found rent prices last year grew faster than wages in about half of major metro areas.
That is particularly upsetting because you can't really cut back on that.
Many economic experts say these high housing costs aren't likely to come down anytime soon. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Closing out Black Music Month in the region is a festival highlighting local artists across multiple genres. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer has a preview of this weekend's San Diego Black Arts and Culture District Music Festival.
We live this art, me and my homie. Our only mission is to take you.
It will be a day filled with music, art, and culture.
I was chilling in the garden with Judas. I had no clue that he would do this.
In Lyrical Groove's Kendrick Dial will be part of the show with the sound he calls spoken soul.
I mean, spoken word, it's soul, it's jazz, it's hip-hop, it's all these elements of what we historically call black music. And so it's a gospel feeling into it. There's a message base.
The music festival is happening just outside of the Black Arts and Culture District in San Diego's Encanto neighborhood. The event's curated by Kamau Kenyatta, a Grammy Award-winning producer who teaches music at UC San Diego.
This is all San Diego talent.
Besides Kendrick Dial and Lyrical Groove, there will be live performances from other local artists like Deneen Wilburn, Geminelle, and Rebecca Jade.
We're going to hear, as I said, a neo-soul, spoken word, R&B. Of course, Deneen came from the church, St. Stephen's Church right up the hill, and Rebecca with her, the World Traveler, bringing in her own original music, which has many, many influences.
Plus, there will be local food vendors, visual art displays, and cultural exhibits. Gaidi Finney is executive director of the San Diego African American Museum of Fine Arts, which oversees funding in the district. He says this is the first ever Black Arts and Culture District Music Festival and hopes it becomes an annual event.
It's really a tribute to Black Music Month, which is in June. And so we piggybacked on that to create this event.
Dial expects the festival to uplift and inspire the local community and provide a safe haven through a sense of family.
The whole purpose of us even doing this to bring that economic, independence and that artistic expression and a sense of community back to this space in a real way.
It's a free event for the public and takes place at Martin Luther King Jr. Community Park this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Well, we are dealing with a very warm, if not hot, weather pattern across the deserts all weekend long. Subtle warming in other areas. So if you're maybe a few dozen miles inland, it'll be a little warmer, a little hotter into Friday and Saturday for some. We're going to be comfortably cool near the coastline. And this time of the year, we've been dealing with some fires breaking out on a daily basis in some parts of central and southern California. So it's still a little breezy out there in the deserts and still some fire risk. The excessive heat warning will be ending at 8 p.m., but there will be more to follow with more heat coming. Tonight we'll get down to 65 with low clouds near the coastline, and into Friday, very warm if not hot in the deserts. High pressure in charge, and again, any meaningful rain is going to be way off to the east into the Four Corners region. So we're going to be staying dry here, back up to 111 degrees at Borrego Springs on our Friday afternoon. 75 in Mount Laguna, Ramona 90 degrees, and we'll be into the 70s near the coastline, so comfortably warm. And as we look at future radar and satellite through the weekend, we'll press pause around 4 p.m. Friday. And really, there's no meaningful change here for us. There will be a disturbance that moves into the Pacific Northwest. You can see the clouds, a couple of showers this weekend, but that stays well to our north and largely just kind of bypasses us, as well as moisture off to the east. An early look at fireworks viewing conditions. We have good weather coming our way for any of that into Southern California. Now, always be extraordinarily careful. Leave the fireworks to the professionals, as there is the risk of fire danger and wildfire spread from any of that. Coastal forecast here. Mid to upper 70s Friday, upper 70s Saturday and Sunday, 80 degrees Monday. So we are turning a little warmer. You'll notice a slight change there for the coast. Inland areas, you're going to gain about 6 degrees from Friday to Sunday. Noticeably warmer there. Mountainous areas, we're going to be in the mid to upper 70s. A little bit warm, a little breezy as well, though. And that is the cause for concern for fire danger. And we're consistently around 111 to 113 degrees into the hot spots in the deserts. For AccuWeather, I'm Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
California public school students may soon have to revert back to passing paper notes in class. A bill requiring schools to adopt policies that limit or ban smartphone use during school hours is advancing through the legislature. It was unanimously approved by the Senate Education Committee this week. Schools would have to implement the policies by July 1st of 2026. The bill would allow for exceptions like emergencies, and then it heads to the Senate Appropriations Committee next. Tonight's presidential debate is the latest chapter in what has been a politically polarizing matchup. Experts say elections like this one can impact a person's mental health. Mandy Gaither has ways to help ease election stress and anxiety.
It's Trump versus Biden again, and whether you're left, right, or in the middle, all sides are subject to concern for the future.
What I see in my daily practice is people worried about finances, about their mental health, their physical health. If you already have a little bit of depression or anxiety, it can exaggerate that.
Psychiatrist Dr. Thomas Valenti says our brains don't like change, leaving us vulnerable to stress and the start of a downward spiral, which can lead to anxiety and depression.
Regardless of what political party you assign yourself to, there's a 50-50 chance that your candidate may not win. And so that starts the cycle for some people of being fear-based.
Valenti says to ease election stress by limiting exposure, take a break from all things related to the election, especially if it's creating anxiety. Next, keep up a healthy routine by eating well, exercising, and getting good quality sleep. And remember, the election will end.
I think some people just can't see that. They can't see through it. and then it just tends to build to a crescendo where it's overwhelming.
Finally, seek help either from friends, family, or a mental health professional. Talking about your worries can ease the burden.
Medication can help, so can psychotherapy, counseling, meditation, yoga, art, aromatherapy. It's not just one path or one treatment.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And the doctor says that if you're already in treatment and feel like medication is not working, a dose adjustment may be necessary. He says genetic testing can be used to decide whether patients are on the right medication or if they need something else to augment it to work better. And we have a reminder for you. You can watch a PBS News simulcast of the CNN presidential debate right here on KPBS. Coverage of the debate and analysis all starts at 6 o'clock tonight. And here is a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition will be following up on tonight's debate with reaction from Gen Z voters. And KPBS Roundtable is focusing in on immigration and what's changed in our border region since President Biden's executive actions restricting asylum. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.